Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. We're here today to talk about Neelix for some reason, which is great. So I'm joined by guest Ellen. We've done some chats before. Ellen, thank you so much for joining me for this.
You're welcome.
And I believe, like, you used to have the username AmyRat151. I believe you've changed that now. Or are you
Yeah,
like the Khaleesi of
I
the?
did because I'm a part of because I just do a new screen name and it comes from my play group. I'm in the cosplay group Midwestern, and it is based in the Midwest, obviously, and it's got like 250 people in it technically, but majority of the people who like go to the events and things are all from Illinois. And there is only like one or two people from Wisconsin who show up. So I, put of the great dairy state I'm from Wisconsin. So, and right now I cosplay Daenerys. So that's what the reason for that. And I
Okay.
just needed a noticeable and eye-catching name. So that's why I changed it.
Yeah, I actually thought that was quite cool. Khaleesi the Great Dairy State.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I just think it's more eye-catching. Yeah, I know I'm dropping out. I know.
yeah.
Oh, what I can fix that. What can I do? Does anybody know?
You could. I'm not sure. You could try signing out and then coming back in. See if that helps.
Just all right.
Yeah, like close it, the
Just
Google, and
close
then
out and
go
then
to the. Yeah.
all right, let's see.
Okay. So while she's doing that, I'll bring this up. Hold on. There we go. There he is. Talk about the big old Neelix. This is what we're gonna. Oh wow, Inception. Okay, I shouldn't do that. But anyway, yeah. So this is what we're gonna talk about when she gets back. I don't know. I'm trying to pause before and just sort of delay until she gets back because I want to wait till she's here before I really get into this. Okay, here she is.
That's all I had in my bag of tricks.
Oh yeah, you're still blinking out, but we'll just have to deal with it then. 'Cause I'm not
I
sure
don't know
what
how to
else.
fix it.
Yeah, just have to handle it. I think I'll just talk like this from now on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get into this because you approached me a while ago and suggested that we do our next stream about Neelix. So what were some of your thoughts? What were some of your motivations? Why would you think that Neelix is a good topic to discuss?
Well, I suppose I'll talk hoping that I won't drop out and go away. But I feel like, Neelix is just first character ever, like some people say he is. And he's not even a character that I particularly love, but I get a little annoyed when people act as if he's just this terrible character that's never had any good moments, never had any good episodes. Not true. There there's stuff to like about Neelix, and I'm not going to say that he wasn't annoying because I think he is. But I think the reason for that is that he was made as a character. And that is a problem to a lot of the characters in Voyager where it often writing staff just didn't know quite what to do with them.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's That's
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's an assessment I totally and completely agree with. Like I heard so many people say, "Oh, I hate Neelix. Neelix is awful. Neelix is disgusting." In fact, I was just doing a bit of research and I found some like memes and websites saying that Neelix is the Jar Jar Binks of Voyager, where I don't think that's the case because I think
No.
there are times when the writers use him very well. And I think
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the concept of the character, but I think you hit the nail right on the head. Is that many times the Voyager writing staff didn't know how to write for him, or they misused him, or some people just had a different idea of how this character should be, and so that I think the writing with this character is very inconsistent. And you brought up like all the characters in Voyager in general that the writing staff seemed to be lost on sort of how to write for them, and I would agree with that. I mean that becomes very apparent with Chakotay and Harry Kim and Tuvok
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
later seasons.
I think Chakotay in a way maybe the worst out of anybody in the staff because of how he was, how important Chakotay was supposed to be, like how in front and like how important he was supposed to be later, where he just he just became less compelling as the on, which is sad, I think. Yes, poor Chico and Harry as well. I mean, and I've always been partial to Harry and liked him, and I'm not even sure maybe entirely like Harry, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it had to do with uh I can't other actors being stronger because Jerry Ryan is a really good actress, so it is for giving more material to her. Or the doctor's actor. What's his name?
Robert Picardo. It's an easy one to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, to the doctor, like giving more material, a stronger actor. And Robert Duncan is a really smart actor as well. So and they get a lot of stuff to play with in terms of a character. And he became a really complex character by the end of the show. Like Tom was real, and so was Balana, but Harry and just weren't given as much. And I don't know if it was because their actors weren't very good, because the writing staff and the producers didn't like their characters.
Well, here's my opinion on this. With Chakotay, I think they did do Chakotay right for the first 4 seasons.
Yeah, I liked, yeah.
Yeah, it was the later seasons where they kind of. I think the writers weren't enamored with 7 of 9 and the Doctor. It wasn't necessarily. I don't think it was necessarily these are better characters or better actors. I just think the writers became sort of obsessed with them and focused more on them, and they wrote them better than and all the other characters. They didn't do a very good job of writing. And with Harry Kim, I actually really liked the actor, Garrett Wong, I think his name was. Particularly in later seasons, I think he really came into it, and he was on record, and Robert Beltran plays Chakotay as well, but they were both on record, but particularly Garrett Wong, how they often had fights and arguments with the producers and the writing staff for not doing their characters justice. They wanted better material, and with Garrett Wong in particular, I can see that he was doing his damnedest, his best with this shoddy material that they were giving him. And I had someone, like I did a top 10 Star Trek actors video before, and I had someone go on that video and comment they thought Garrett Wong belonged on the worst list, and I couldn't disagree with that more. I think the actor was actually really good. I think it was just the writing for that character was bad. But getting back to Neelix, in particular, the thing with Neelix, I think he's different from like a Chakotay, Harry Kim, or any of those, or Tuvok as well, because Tuvok's another one I think they wrote poorly for towards the end of the show. But I I think Neelix is different because his writing is inconsistent throughout the entire series. Like there's parts through
Yeah.
within each season where he'd be used very well and parts he'd be used very poorly. And I think the parts where he was used poorly is when they were just having them there as a comic relief. Like he would just
Yeah.
pop up, not have much to do, just say something really stupid or really annoying. And so I think that that annoyingness has stuck with people, and they notice that, and that's why they sort of gravitate and hate this character so much, because the annoying moments is what they remember most about him.
Yeah. I mean that does I suppose, because like people have the section to him being annoying, versus the times he was actually used well. So that's sad, though, that's the case, but I think that it is.
Yeah. So I had brought up some notes about some of my favorite and least favorite episodes that he appeared in. And I wanted to sort of get your opinion, see where you work. So
Sure.
I'll sort of
Sure.
I'll go back and forth between the ones I thought worked and the ones that didn't work. First of all, the one that worked, and this is actually, I think, his best. This was Neelix at his best. His best episode was the first season episode, Jatrell, where he, they explored his. This is when you first get to his backstory, that his whole like planet was destroyed by this like doomsday weapon, and you see him confront the creator of the weapon. And I like this not just because of the backstory, but I think he comes off as a really realistic, dynamic character. He's not used for comic relief at all in this episode, which I love.
Oh.
And they had this is a great exploration of the character, where he has this dream sequence, and you find out that all his hatred towards this one scientist is actually his own fears and insecurities, because he was a deserter during this particular war.
Yeah.
And also, like, I thought this, to me, this is why I always praise the Kes and Neelix relationship. And for me, it was mainly this episode which I thought it really worked, because you had that dynamic between Kes and Neelix, where Kes, Neelix was treating her pretty poorly at first and treating her like she's an idiot, but then he comes to appreciate her and realize that the reason why he's treating her like this is because of his own insecurities, which for me, and I just, the way that they came together in this episode just really worked for me. But anyway, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I suppose it works also because it's classic Trek, an important or an interesting philosophical societal question, right in your face. The scientist, what was his name again? It's the name of the episode.
Yeah, Jatrell.
He, realizing real extent of the devastation of his device, then, goes on this mission to try to fix what he broke. Found out that he couldn't do it. Was, a great a great one-off character. Again, like I said, a classic Trek setup. A social really well. Humanizing. Gets you to kind of wonder the people who are the bad guys of history. That ever been men like this in their ranks, where they could, put in this almost magical solution and just bring back all the people that they killed. Like if there has been men like this, and there probably have, even in these cultures that we've sort of deemed entirely 100% evil. So like I think it's one of my best episode from the first season in general of Voyager. So it's the one, like I don't watch, like when I do a rewatch of watch the whole thing through, but if I'm just like picking like the random episodes that I just go over and over again, like from the first season, like that's the one that I watch over and over again. So, but yeah, it used because, like you said, he wasn't in it. His relationship with Kess made sense a writing standpoint, if nothing else, in that episode. So yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. I don't really have too much to add about it.
Yeah, I did want to address DOA in the chat, who does disagree. It says that Neelix's demeanor never matched his history, and I would, I would sort of amend that statement to say it oftentimes doesn't match his history, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
yeah,
never,
yeah.
because
Yes.
there's this episode where it makes total sense, and there's a few more episodes where they actually reference this episode, which I was actually really impressed with, which I'll get to shortly, which I do think it does definitely match its history. But there's a lot of other times, particularly the episodes that don't focus on him, where it doesn't seem like this would be his backstory because he's all cheerful and chipper and being such a
Well, yeah, like a class. And I know that, I mean, psychology is a complicated thing, but what I think maybe there was a germ of an idea where, like, Neelix was supposed to be acting this because of, his deep pain and his psychological scars, like, is maybe a fake it till you make it kind of person, or he just sort of, tries to focus on the positives so much because, like, in his pain, like, maybe there was that germ of an idea either in the writing or in Ethan's acting or something, but it never coalesced. And I think that there's a quote from that Snow White says about how having hope is like a strong person has to have hope, especially if they've gone through trauma. So it, like, being optimistic is not like stupid thing. Like, you need to try to be positive. Like, it takes real personal strength to try and be positive after horrible things happen to you, but it never coalesces in. And that's probably the biggest tragedy for me about how his result.
Yeah, like I definitely think there's a point there because a lot often people who are really depressed inside will have an outwardly chipper, happy attitude, and I think a lot of people don't realize that that's like a
Yeah.
lot of comedians are actually really depressed and dark people, but they have a little, and like Robin Williams is probably the most obvious example of that. Like his attitude was always really chipper inside, but he was fighting depression.
Yeah.
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 So, in that sense, you could say that the Neelix characters work. You could just say all of his happy, chipper attitude is just a deference to try to hide from his inner darkness and sort of run away from that. And there are a
Yeah.
few episodes I do think where that does come across, but other times he just
Yeah.
comes off as an annoying idiot. So, on that note, let's move over to one of the worst examples I have for him, in my opinion, is the Phage, which is the first season episode.
Phage. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time we meet the Vidines and they steal his lung and he's lying in sick bay. And I just hate him in this episode because he's being such a dick to the doctor. He's being very annoying. He's like singing. I know I'm supposed to feel sorry for him because he's on death's door and he's losing a lung.
Yeah.
Is keeping him, and you're supposed to say like, oh no, that's his way of dealing with the fact he's about to die, but he's just such
Right.
a dick to everyone in this episode, and I just can't stand him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I the Vidians, I think, in general, were their idea that were actually, this doesn't really have anything to do with Neelix, were an interesting idea that only worked well one, maybe three times. I just wish they would have used the Vidians better in general. But yeah, this is not an episode I think about. Like it's like, no, yeah, that's okay. Just
Well, I
just
actually
not
did.
something
I actually did think they used the Vidines better a bit later, especially in season 2. But this episode, I was
Yeah,
not.
yeah, totally.
I was not impressed by the Vidines at all in this episode. In fact, I was surprised when they kept reappearing because they just seemed throwaway to me here.
Yeah, no, they were used much better in the second season.
All right, cool. So, all right, let me jump back to another one of my favorites, and this is I don't know. I don't think is an amazing example of Neelix, but I did like him in the second season episode Alliances, where the Voyager crew was trying to make alliance with the Kazon, and this showed him as sort of the. I guess this was the original inception of this character, is that he would be the guide. He'd be the one who knows all about the politics of this region.
Right.
And it shows him he has like a friend, an inside man. Kind of remind me almost of Odo. Odo has all these connections in Deep Space Nine where he could get
right.
from where Neelix had this Kazon guy, which he was able to sort of suss out which would be the better Kazon to approach for an alliance and was the best way to do it, where's the best place to have it. And then, of course, he found out about a plot to kill Janeway during the meeting, and so he was sort of investigating that. So yeah. I like that in terms of I think they were doing the best with the concept of the character of Neelix as he was originally conceptualized, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I agree. And what is the name of the episode?
Alliances.
Cut out. Alliances. Yeah, that's right. Right. Isn't that in the bar, and that one guy is trying to figure out the puzzle? So
yes,
yeah. The dancer. Yeah. That's a good scene. That's actually a funny scene where then it was with Neelix a part of it. So and yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna say I agree with you a lot. I don't have anything to add. I agree it was a time that he was used well.
Okay, and just want to approach DOA in the chat again is saying that he's overly congenial to me. I would have liked him to go overboard and drug back from the edge by Tuvok, maybe a missed opportunity in Detrell. I don't know. I never got that. I'll get more into Neelix and Tuvok's relationship because that's an important relationship. But I never got that Tuvok would be the one to drag him back from the edge. I think in Detrell, actually, Cass, in a way, did drag him back from the edge, and that's why I said the relationship was strong in that episode. And I think Kess was the better person to drag him back from the edge than Tuvok, me personally.
That I actually kind of like Tuvok and Neelix's, but I don't think it was often utilized well. Like maybe only 3 times, I think, did it really work for me. But those 3 times out to me, and that's why I do like their association. But anyway, was nowhere near ready to be in that position in Jethro. Maybe he would be in that position, like in relation to Neelix in the 7th season, but in the first, because I don't think Tuvok thought much of Neelix at all. Besides, like he really didn't even see, I don't think, his importance on Voyager until later. I don't think Tuvok for Neelix until later. So I don't think that would have been natural at all in the first season for Tuvok to pull him back at that time.
Yeah, I think it took a while for their relationship to develop. At first, I would say the first season is a probably example of Neelix being annoying because he was going, Mr. Vulcan, and just doing stuff to annoy. And I don't think it actually started working until a bit later.
No.
But well, I guess I'm jumping to my worst list now, and I'll get to a second season episode. I think Partusian. I never pronounced that right, but it's the one where Neelix is being super jealous of Tom Paris with Kess, and
Oh,
he like
that's
even
terrible.
he,
All around terrible. I mean, it is actually kind of funny when he dumps the spaghetti on him.
yeah.
Like the in the mess hall is kind of funny, but the rest of that episode is just terrible. And Harry's fake smiles, like when they're like that whole mess hall, but the rest of the episode is just stupid and a disaster. Totally.
Yeah, yeah, I mainly hate that episode because of Neelix. Like the way, just the whole thing. Like I didn't like the way that they tried to play up this romance between Tom Paris and Kess. First of all, I think that was a
No.
real detriment of the show. And every time they tried to touch on that, I hate it. That's why I don't like this. The one I'm not going to mention it later, but this is one episode called "Before and After" about Kess time traveling back into, where she died and she time travels back. A lot of people like that episode. I hate it because it focuses on her and Tom Paris. And every time they do that, I hate it.
I like that episode, but I think the reason why I don't mind that is because Robert put and I think they all do. I think the acting in that episode from Garrett too, like that he's had this relationship with this as a son, and Robert too, and he's now Captain Chakotay, and I just love the small and limited as it is that is created not just in the writing but in the acting. So that's why I like that episode, because I think the acting is really good.
Okay, well, getting a bit derailed, but
oh yeah,
yeah, but that yeah, I don't know. I just don't like that episode. I don't like the whole concept of Harry being with Kess's daughter, and it's just too weird.
that is a little weird. I don't know. Like I said, the acting is really what sells it. And what I meant in the writing is like a world building, this tiny world, is really subtly but somehow realistically, or at least realistically, like it's logical and it makes sense. Nothing it doesn't tick like the alternative universe authenticity to it. I always thought that Voyager was at the alternative universe episodes. Those were always done pretty was alternative universe episodes in other Star Treks, in others just I don't think work as well. Like something about them just feels off. Babbling, I know. Let's talk about Neelix.
Okay, well, I was talking about Partusian, the episode where he's a jealous. Yeah, I guess there's not much to say about this. He's a jealous.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a jealous dick. I don't like Tom have Cass either. I because I don't know with Tom. I think they tried to in like a bad boy direction, and it just never quite worked.
He comes off as more
like they
goofy.
tried to and he is, and they with him later, like from third season on, it really the writing for Tom like came together with the acting for him, but like they tried to make him like bad boy and like really always chasing women kind of guy, and it just didn't work. Anyway, jealous douche Neelix. No.
Yes, I actually think this is where why a lot of people hate Neelix. The hate is sort of attached to is be things like this where he's being jealous, and because that's so annoying to see.
Yeah.
Not,
and if we talk a little more about his relationship to Castle, creepy because she looks at least age difference in the actors, but she looks at least younger than he does. So that's like a squick, makes them a little uncomfortable that he looks so much older than she does, and it like fit, and they didn't really have the chemistry. Like their relationship seemed pretty sexless, actually. Like it it was pretty innocent,
Yeah.
their chemistry.
Well, that's see, I
But people.
yeah, I actually disagree on that. The Cass and Neelix thing is one of my favorite relationships in all of Star Trek.
Yeah, and see, most people don't like it, so I think that
Yeah.
that's another reason people don't like Neelix.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly because of episodes like this one where he's just being a jealous dick, and I think they focus too much on
Yeah.
that. Like the writers did, they focused too much on him being a jealous dick, and not enough in moments like Jatrell when the relationship actually really
Right.
gelled. And I think the fact is that they both
Yeah.
came from the backgrounds they came from, where they both came from Desolus. They have dark passes. Kess, was captured by the K's and whatnot, so they both have like dark passes, and the way that they deal with it and emotionally support each other is what I think worked about that relationship. But yeah, I wasn't happy when they broke them up in season 3, and so that by that time when they got rid of Cass, I'm like, good, she's useless now. Get rid of her.
Yeah.
Because they tried to make her a sex object basically, and that's what pissed me off. And when she was with Neelix, as I said, she was never that sexualized. It was more of she was a supporting, a helping hand, someone who's really supportive.
Yeah, I really liked her relationship with the Doctor much more, and that was a more fulfilling relationship for her character. Um, but yeah, I think that it's because, kind of like you said, they weren't like the Jethro couple for most of their relationship. He was jealous and insecure, and they really didn't then build them much. A strong team together.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I did like Cass and the Doctor's dynamic as well. Although they did ruin that in season 3 as well, because they showed that the Doctor actually had a crush on Cass. Yeah, I don't like season 3 of Voyager. I've mentioned this on my channel a lot before. So anyway,
Yeah, I know you don't. I do though.
you
I
do?
actually really
Oh my
like.
god. Well,
I really
anyway,
like a bunch of episodes. Anyway.
I'm going to sort of contradict myself because I'm going to name an episode from season 3 as a positive for Neelix, as a good
Yeah.
part. And in fact, this is an episode most people seem to hate. I've seen it on a lot of worst lists. A lot of people saying it's one of the worst episodes of the show. I wouldn't say it's one of the best, but I would think more positively about this episode than I do negatively, and that is Rise. So that's the episode where the asteroids are like destroying this planet, and Tuvok
Yeah.
and Neelix get on a space elevator to go up into space, and there's a murder mystery about who killed the whatever, who's helping the aliens. Now the murder mystery is kind of throwaway. I'll agree with that. That wasn't very interesting. But the reason why I like this episode is because of the Neelix and Tuvok relationship, and I think this is where the relationship started getting interesting to me. And the thing that I love most about it is this is when Neelix calls out Tuvok for being a dick to him. He finally calls it out, being like, "You're being condescending to me." And Tuvok's like, "What are you talking about? I'm just being illogical and emotional."
Yeah.
But I totally agree with Neelix. Tuvok is constantly being condescending to Neelix, and I love that he actually calls him out on it. And they actually move past that. Tuvok actually acknowledge, even though he doesn't agree with Neelix on this, he does acknowledge that Neelix feels this way, and they actually work together to overcome this crisis. So I actually thought that was a really great interaction between those two.
Yeah, I really like the thing about Tuvok, and I happen to one of my favorite characters in Voyager. I really like Tuvok. I don't know, but he is why I think he's a successful character as a Vulcan, he sort of always needs to learn that like other people's feelings matter, and he has to deal with like you know the people around you, like you have to give them something, give them honesty, you have to give them cooperation, like you can't just act like feelings don't matter. Tuvok is so I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. I
I
really
think
like Rise.
I think he is rigid on a surface level.
Yeah.
I think, and I agree.
Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Tuvok. Again, we have to I could say stuff about Tuvok, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on Neelix and his relationship with Neelix in Rise, which is that I really like. I really like Rise too. And I just watched it to do a little preparation for this. Right, yeah, Rise. Where you can see uh he's used well because Alex's cheerful disposition and being good to people and being as people actually works. Like when he talks to that woman, about like because Neelix is supposed to be like good with people. People are always supposed to be around Neelix, like in the writing, like Neelix and want to be around him and hang out with him and like have a good time with him. Supposedly, like that's what he's supposed to be, and we actually see that in the writing and the acting of this episode. Like his empathy, this woman feel better in like a real way that like connects audience.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think this was a dynamic. He wasn't just there for comic relief. It showed the sort of more, shall we say, human side of him, the more emotional side of him that could relate to other people. So it's interesting to hear that you like this episode too, because this episode gets a lot of hate, and I honestly don't understand where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, why? I mean, I don't like there are so many other Voyagers that are worse than this one.
Oh yes, in
Like
season 3 especially.
I wouldn't agree, but that's where you and I differ. But anyway, like to me, I figure like most people would put this in the middle, versus be like, oh, this is the worst was. Like, no, it's not. I mean, I don't love. It's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely one that I speak of in pot. Right.
Well,
So worst from season
all right, cool. So
3.
well, actually, I'm still in season 2 with my worst list, so I haven't gone by season. But so worst next on my worst list for Neelix is Investigations, which is the season.
Yeah.
So there was a long-term story arc with this Maquis like spy who was working with Seska to betray the Kazon. I thought that was a good story arc, but they ruined it with this episode, because this is the episode that paid it off, where they finally find out who it is, and they do it through Neelix having a daytime talk show like Good Morning America, and that was the dumbest, most annoying thing. And I was so glad at least the writers had the good sense to pretend the storyline never exists and stop it after this episode. But still, oh my god, that was just awful.
It is, and like this I think is what people remember, because he is so an episode, and yeah, he just no more to say besides the fact that he was annoying. There I really have no other adjectives for this episode, and I think that the idea might have worked in it just needed to be another character besides Neelix who investigated this crime. Like, it didn't need to be Tuvok. It, you think would be the natural person for this. Maybe it was Tom, or Kess. Like really get weird with it. It could have been anybody else.
Well, Tom was involved in the subterfuge because he was pretending to defect.
Right.
Sorry, Luseska. Losing my words. Yeah, but
maybe it was B'Elanna, because like this guy worked for her, so she knew him. I forget who the mole was.
I can't remember his name.
Whatever. But
Jonas.
He was
Jonas.
Yeah. He was part of B'Elanna's engineering crew, so obviously, that, and we know she's known him for years because they were in the Maquis together, and so a little bit of conflict with B'Elanna because she doesn't just want to throw him over to Captain Janeway without at least an for his actions towards her. And maybe during that, like, other people think like maybe it's him, but she sticks up for him, and then she finds episode it was him the whole time and she was wrong and betrayed by him. So it should have been besides Neelix who found out that he was the mole. And I agree, it was a good idea for an arc that was just paid off really badly. And the talk show thing was stupid. I'm glad that it didn't. I think it only got like one more reference.
Yeah.
In like the giant bug episode, and that was it.
There was another reference in the Coda episode, which is another episode I hate from season 3, but we won't get into that.
I like the giant bug episode.
Oh no, I like the giant bug episode too. I'll put that out there. So, but
sexy.
But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, I totally agree with everything you just said. Like, your idea for having B'Elanna investigate Jonas, that would have worked so much better. And I would actually say, in fact, if they had Tuvok, I still think that would have been, even though he's the one you expect, I think there's not enough episodes in Voyager of Tuvok being a badass investigator. Like, a lot of times, like Odo, you really got across he was a badass investigator in Deep Space Nine. With Voyager, they sort of tell you all the time that Tuvok is a badass investigator, but you don't get to see it as much. So they could have took the opportunity to show him
either way,
a badass investigator.
If Tuvok would have been better.
Yeah, Neelix is probably the absolute worst character that they could have had. Like, investigate this.
I decided. I think that this might be my least favorite Neelix episode.
Oh, we haven't gotten to mine yet.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's keep going.
All right, so let's move on. So let's jump back to my best list. And this is someone read in the chat referenced this episode earlier because I think it's probably, like Jetrell, it's another really noteworthy, great Neelix episode, and that's Mortal Coil from the 4th season.
Are we jumping around? Like, you didn't do your 3, did you?
No, the worst was Investigation.
Oh, Investigation.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, Mortal Coil. Gotcha.
So I have my worst and my best in order from air date, but the air dates don't correspond.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
And the worst was still in the 2nd season, but we're all the way in the 4th season for the best. But anyway, yeah. So this is really, like, it took me a while to like this episode because it's so out of place in the 4th season, I think, because the 4th season is more focused on 7 of 9 in the Borg. Although they do use 7 of 9 in this episode because Neelix dies and she uses her nanoprobe technology to bring him back to life, which, by the way, to me is more of the cure for death. And a lot of people complain about Into Darkness, that being a cure for death. I think this is even more of a cure for death. But anyway, that never comes up again. People die like, oh yeah, screw them. Let's not use 7's nanoprobes to save them, but let's do it with Neelix this one time. But anyway, digressing, this is a good character study for Neelix. This is what I kind of referenced earlier about how they call back to his backstory and that they explored in Jetrell about how his family died because here he's expecting to see his family and his sister in particular, who died during the event when he died. But when he died, he just saw nothing. So he has this crisis of faith. And I think this is another good use of Chakotay, because he goes to Chakotay as a spiritual man to help him in this crisis of faith. And then Chakotay takes him on that, vision quest, whatever that he does. And it's that, I think, is one of the creepiest dream sequence I've ever seen, like on any show ever. Like when because he sees his dead sister, and you hear like Naomi's voice coming out of her voice when she just goes, "Scared you," and just disintegrates. Like that freaked me the fuck out. And so I totally bought that he was being like a bit suicidal at the end of the episode after going through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good episode in general. I mean, it's also an episode to watch because, it's very existential. Where it give you an answer for death at the end of the episode, it gives you an answer for life. That life on its own is worth living for the joy of life. And yeah, like sort of in episode where Neelix lost his birth family, but he has another, like a Voyager, he has what's Naomi's mom's name? Naomi's mother? Samantha. Yeah, Samantha. Like his family now, and Chakotay is his family now, and Janeway now, so like that's in the subtext of the episode. It's really believable. Thank you, Cardinal Doomsday. So I mean, it's very believable, the relationships in that episode. And even Seven, saving Neelix with her nanoprobes, like where has always been one of the few people who up to that point kind to her, like who didn't really, who just, tried to make her feel like, part of the group Voyager. So her, being like right away, oh, we got to save him, like even in her subtle way, the character relationships in that episode, like I said, are really believable. So, and yes, Neelix was used really well. So yeah.
Yeah, my only qualm is the whole saving, cure for death thing. But I think they made Seven's nanoprobes too powerful, not just in this episode, but a lot going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I meant more like her character versus the plot fix it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think this is a really great character episode. So anyway, let's move back over to my worst. And this is an episode that Neelix is not the focus on. He's not the main, it's just an ensemble piece, but he sticks out to me as being particularly annoying in this episode, and that is Basics Part 2, which is the first episode of season 3. It was the second part of the two-parter where they're trapped. So this is the episode where the Kazon strand them on the planet. So they're stranded on this primitive planet and they have to get by. Now, why Neelix annoys me so much in this episode, he basically kills Hogan. He's responsible for killing Hogan because he tells Hogan to, go pick up those sticks. And Hogan's like, is it really necessary? And Neelix like gives him this speech. It's like, blah, blah, we have to survive. And then Hogan, he gets killed by a freaking giant monster because it's right by a creepy cave.
The cave monster. You're dead.
And he never takes responsibility. I guess there's one scene he's like, I shouldn't have told Hogan to get it. And I was like, you're damn right.
Yeah.
And also, more than that, there's a scene later where the primitive aliens or whatever kidnap Kess and Neelix. They kidnap them both. And Chakotay comes to save them, and Chakotay is like being really good at it and knowing how to handle them, and like just talking very calmly, even though he knows they don't understand him. But then Neelix fucks it all up and goes like, "Get your hands off her!" and starts freaking out. And that, of course, freaks them out, and they start attacking them because of it. And I'm just like, God damn it.
Like I said, Kess and Neelix, they're like often written well. It was mostly written badly. I mean, the few times that it worked, you're right, it did work, but most of what sticks out in people's minds are moments like that. To me, I think people don't like them together and like think that it's just like a really creepy relationship.
See, writers of episodes like Detrell and Mortal Kombat know how to use Neelix. Writers of episode like this, I don't think they appreciate him. They just think, oh, he's this stupid idiot comic relief, so let's just have him act like an idiot and fuck things up for everyone. Basically.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. Hold on. Let's move over back to my best list now. So next we'll get the Cardinal Doomsday's favorite episode mentioned in the chat is Riddles, which is all the way up in season 6. This, I think, is another really great Tuvok Neelix interaction. This is probably my favorite Tuvok and Neelix episode because this is one where Tuvok gets shot or whatever by his alien, and they kind of save his life, but he's a bit I don't know how to say this, but he's a bit disabled. Like, he's not all mentally there. And so he has a totally different personality who's more like into fun with Neelix. And to see them bond, like the way Neelix cares for Tuvok, and they actually bond over this. And at first, Neelix is trying too hard to make him remember who he was. And that's, of course, just frustrating him. Then he finally realized that he needs to let him be this new person and to embrace that. And so they cook together and stuff. And I love that. That was so sweet. And it was such a good development for Neelix's character, especially towards the end where Tuvok, to have the cure for him to go back to the way he was, and Neelix, and even though he would miss his good friend, he knows that's what's best for him. And he encourages Tuvok to do the surgery that he doesn't want to do. It was just such a great episode. But anyway,
yeah. Yes, it does really swing. Riddles.
yes.
I love Riddles too. And really, Roxanne Dawson is who directed that. I think a lot of actors who are actors turned directors like Roxanne and also Robert Duncan McNeil. Neither of them really act anymore. They're just directors now, which is kind of sad, but they're also good directors. They really know how to draw the performances out of everybody in the room a lot of the time. Like even in Riddles, when Janeway like invites Tuvok to eat with her, and I want to stay with Neelix, and Janeway's small reaction after, like, really, there's a lot of little rich character moments in that episode, and overall, Riddles is a really good episode. But yeah, Neelix works here kind of like he worked in Rise, as somebody at making people feel better, not being a clown, not being over the top or ridiculous, but simply just being himself with other people, and relaxed, and oh, I can relax around Neelix. Like he makes me feel good this way. So yeah, same kind of thing as with in Rise, just expanded over the whole episode. And of course, is perfect where Tuvok, when he's like, he's like, that's not very logical, and like it takes Tuvok like a minute to realize, you're right, it wasn't logical what I just said. What it was a pun. I just made a pun. And for him to like realize he was actually changed by his experience of having image, and like how that then affected him after, because of what Neelix brought out in him. So yeah, it's a great episode, and probably the best use of Neelix in the entire show.
Oh, yeah, so you agree with Colonel Doomsday? I don't. I kind of lean more towards Jetrel and Mortal Coil, but I would put this right up there with those three. Like those two are definitely the best uses of Neelix, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably my second favorite. Yeah.
I think this is definitely. I totally agree with that ending where Tuvok realizes he had been changed by the experience. I think that was absolutely amazing. That was a great use, and also, like as I said, I think Neelix had like character development in this episode because he has to realize to sort of let go of, even though he likes this new version of Tuvok better as well. He realized he has to let go of that for the sake of his friend, and I think that was a really strong moment for him as well.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's jump back to
Very
my.
too often watching Voyager episodes, and yes, this is Terry.
Cool. All right, so let me jump back to my worst list. I don't know if you'll agree with this one. I'm curious to get your take. But a lot of people don't like this episode. I don't like it. It's called Once Upon a Time, season 5 episode that shows him bonding with Naomi Wildman. And I'm lukewarm on his whole relationship with Naomi because sometimes he can be like a good fatherly, like godfather, uncle figure to her that she needs. But in this episode, why I would say it's one of the worst Neelix episodes, even though he's not particularly annoying in this episode, it's more of like her mother. So Samantha is like trapped on the shuttle that's trapped under rock or buried alive or whatever, and she might not make it out alive,
Yeah.
and the whole episode's about Neelix lying to her, and that annoyed me.
Yeah.
That just it's supposed to be a character exploration of Neelix's own doubts, whatever he thinks is better to coddle her and hide her from the truth, but I just thought that's felt like a contrived storyline that didn't really fit in this character, and it just annoyed me.
I actually used to hate this episode, but I had affection for it in later years. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings, but probably because I really love the stuff on the shuttle. I love the stuff on the shuttle with Tuvok and Tom and Samantha. Like scenes to me are all, really good. And especially, talking get you teary, Tuvok's speech to Samantha at Naomi will be fine. And how Tuvok be like he's had to say that to himself because his children are on the other side of the galaxy now and without him. So like that to Samantha, like that often gets me teary. But to go to the stuff with Neelix, I kind of talked about psychology before, and from I agree that it is contrived. You can understand, like, from a psychological point of view, that is projecting onto Naomi, uh, uh where he, just like he pretends nothing bad happened to his family because it's easier to get through the day that way. But it's still I get contrived from this episode. Didn't quite work. Like, I think something was lost this episode. So I I guess, but I give it like a gold star for effort,
An A for
because
effort.
I think that there was an idea somewhere, a good idea. I think there was a good idea in the process of creating this episode that just didn't quite come together with Neelix. But yeah, it was lied to her and treated her that way. But I still understood why he did it, but it did still come across as contrived.
And we didn't even mention the pink elephant in the room. It's the silly like kids holodeck program fairy tale thing was incredibly annoying.
It was, and um yeah, that's why I used to hate this episode,
Yes.
because it's so hard, like, because they're what they are essentially is Scott from Blue's Clues, or Steve. Was it Scott or Steve from Blue's
I
Clues?
never watched that, so I would
I
know.
don't remember. I think it might have been Steve. But like, these guys are supposed to be Steve from Blue's Clues, and you're taking like them out of their context of a show that's meant for 5-year-olds, because that's what these characters are. They're characters 5-year-olds, and put that in a show meant for adults. Like, I don't best writing and directing team, you can make that not annoying. You know? Yeah,
Yeah.
Flotter and Trevis. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, god damn. Yeah, I think that's why I don't watch this episode. Like the stuff you're talking about with Tuvok and Samantha trapped under the
Samantha
shuttle.
and Tom, yeah.
I actually don't remember that because I hadn't seen this episode very much because of the Trevis. I'm just too off put by the whole Trevis thing. It makes me not want to watch the episode. So
Naomi should be too old for the Wizard of how old was her actress there? She looked like maybe
the actress is like 8 or 9, but the character is supposed to be 3.
Yeah, I mean they differently, and they didn't. The aging with Naomi wasn't anywhere near bad as Worf's kid. Like that was really wonky.
I would say it's just as bad.
Like his aging is super wonky. Like Naomi wasn't anywhere near as bad. Because
I disagree with that. I think her aging was just as bad because she was born in the 2nd season, and here we are in the 5th season. At the end of the 2nd season, this is the start of the 5th season, so really it's 2 years, and she looks like she's 9, 10 years old.
I don't. I mean, it's hard to say with like alien physiology because we know they do
that is just
differently, so it's not entirely unbelievable.
But that's just an excuse, a crutch for the writers to use. Let's just say she's an alien and aliens age differently, and that would be our excuse for aging.
I don't entirely a bad excuse.
Yeah.
Most
maybe not a bad
like
excuse,
Naomi.
but it's an easy excuse. I would say.
Easy. Whatever. Let's move on from this. But yeah, I do agree with Cardinal Doomsday that if she's 8 or 9 years old, she'd have been too old for that anyway. If the actress who they had cast was 6, like maybe that would be a little less like weird and wouldn't seem as jarring.
All right, cool. All right, so let's move back to my best list. This is the last episode I have on my best list. I still have 2 of my worst lists left. No, only one of my worst. Okay. All right, so let's go the last one, my best list, which is I just lost it. The Haunting of Deck 12. Now, I didn't think this was a great episode, but I did like. This is when Neelix tells a ghost story to the Borg children.
Yeah.
And I think Neelix's storytelling is the best thing about this episode, and the way that it's done with because the story itself could be like a throwaway anomaly bullshit BS thing that Voyager did a lot, but the way that Neelix told the story made it actually kind of scary, and also his interactions with the Borg children were golden. It was just really on point.
Yeah, and Mazzotti, I think that's her name. When her line of maybe each other, that's the funniest thing to me. When he's telling them Galaxian ship where the people were stranded and they all suffocated for food, and she's like, maybe they ate each other. It makes me laugh because that's delivered so well, and
And that's totally how kids behave too. That's how that's how some
yeah,
kids react to
yeah.
stuff like that.
It is. I watched that episode over and over as well. It's one of the ones that I really like.
So is that one of your
But
favorites?
yeah, and each or it's not one of my of the sixth season. It's one of the most, but and Egypt's like, our coronary and Paul fine tell the story, like his dialogue, Egypt's dialogue is good. It's I think an episode like that is so dialogue heavy, and so much of us like needed to be really well written, otherwise it would have been the most, but it was written really well, so I think it works.
Cool. All right. So let me move over to the last episode of my worst list here. And this is the episode. This is, I think, the worst use of Neelix in the entire show.
Okay.
It's not a horrible episode, but I hate Neelix's part in this episode. And I'm talking about the 7th season episode, Prophecy, which is the episode where the Klingons come on board and they encounter a group of Klingons. Because in this episode, Neelix is the biggest asshole. He's the biggest dick to Tuvok. Like, they took all that great character development we were just talking about in Riddles and they just threw it right out the window in favor of comic relief. So and it was just so contrived. The way Neelix goes into Tuvok's room, it was like, oh, there's not enough space now, so we're gonna have to be bunkmates. And Tuvok is like, what the hell are you talking about? And very much against it. That's not how that would work. They would actually arrange it beforehand. He wouldn't just shove into his room like that. And the fact that Tuvok was being like, oh, you can't live here is also against the character, because he would be more practical about, yes, there's less space and we need to save space, but they would organize this in advance rather than Neelix just being a dick and shoving his way through. And he's like blasting loud music and being like this cliche, stereotypical, annoying. But then the worst part of it is that plot with the Klingon woman who like has a crush on Harry or whatever, and he like takes her off his hands by like shoving Harry around, and now she has a crush on him. So then they have like the violent Klingon sex in Tuvok's room and destroy all of Tuvok's stuff. And that's like the most inconsiderate, asshole-ish thing you could possibly do. And I just don't. That ruined his character for me. I don't buy, especially like the great relationship he has with Tuvok, that he would suddenly just be such a dick to him all of a sudden like that.
I mean, no, Tim Russ is funny in it, but the writing is really like when he and he has his pad and he's sort of like how he lowers his pad, like it's a funny reaction. But you're right, the joke that is contrived and is based too much on a completely inconsiderate asshole. So the joke kind of loses pretty quickly.
And to me, like, this is just a prime example of them, like, oh, let's use them for humor and not consider the characters at all. Like, and the humor, the humor
which
just wasn't funny.
no, that's the thing about Neelix, I think, that we're getting at, where Neelix, good comedic character. He was a good dramatic character, but comedy was supposed to, like, another moment I think of that I really like Neelix is Memorial, when he talks to Seven of Nine when she made him dinner. And she talks about like guilt being a useful emotion, even though it's difficult. It's a really small, great moment with Neelix, and it's a dramatic. So I don't know. I don't know if they just should have cast somebody else, or if, like, upon realizing that, comedy just isn't great with this character, so we're gonna go ahead but yeah, like they should have gone with drama for
Yeah.
Neelix.
Ah,
Not like not like a C character, but a character who relaxes and you feel good around,
yeah, no,
versus like just making him like a clown man.
yeah, I totally agree with that. Completely agree. He would have been. He's always better when they use him for more serious drama. Ironically, because whenever they try to do comedy, they just paint him like a clown, like an idiot, and it just detracts from his character. But wouldn't really blame the actors so much. I think it was more the writers for
Yeah.
doing this, because I think in the first season they definitely did a character change with him, because in the first season in particular he was more of, it seemed like the way I first saw him when he was first introduced is that he was like a Quark ripoff. That's what I thought. Oh, they just want to replicate Quark. And he had some of those more Quark type qualities in season one, where he's a bit more of an asshole, he's a bit more devious. But in later seasons they make him more lovable and more likable, which isn't a bad thing, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that was actually probably the smart thing to do. He was always a more interesting character when he was more relatable. But uh sometimes they went too far with the lovable and likable and made him goofy and a clown and an idiot, and that's when they just really misused him, and that's why I think a lot of people latch on and think he's really annoying.
um I guess I also want to talk a bit about Homestead.
Oh, I was about to, yeah. Well, let's get
Oh,
into that, yeah.
okay.
Because I've done with my best and worst list, but we should talk about his. That's the episode where he leaves, yeah, his
Yeah.
departure. Because I didn't put this in my best or worst because I have mixed feelings about this episode. But anyway, why don't you go
Okay.
ahead?
To talk about Tuvok and Neelix. They're before he goes to help the colonists with Tuvok metrics, and like that Tuvok is yes he did. Yes he did. He got a better and totally did. Uh but yeah, that moment, or before he goes and helps the miners in like the middle of the episode, between him, that was a great, like, their relationship coalesced in that moment where Tuvok, like, respects Neelix, understands, like, he understands and respects Neelix now, telling him, you're capable of doing this, like, because probably Neelix before this was thinking of minors and doing something drastic, and but it was the same actress, though, Cardinal Doomsday. She Anyway, um but yeah, like, yeah, Neelix previously was probably thinking about doing something to help the miners, but the Talaxian miners, but it was because of his Tuvok then that he finally did it.
you, I
I
just
don't.
Sorry, I'm just going to digress a bit, because when Cardinal mentions that it was a different actress playing Naomi, they did have a different actress in season 4. Was the episode Mortal Coil? It was like a different actress who was younger, and then they recast her for a different actress for Once Upon a Time, who was much older.
Yeah, I meant in that's the same actress in season 7.
Yeah. From
Yeah,
Once
yeah,
Upon a Time, from then on for the rest of the show, it's the same actress. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying with Tuvok and Neelix in this episode, and I particularly love the ending where Neelix is about to leave the ship, and Tuvok does the little dance step because at the start he's like, "I want to get you to dance, Mr. Vulcan," and that he actually does that because he respects him enough. You really feel the love and respect between these two characters in this episode. Although when I did my review of this episode, I talked about how Tuvok's speech to Neelix was, I didn't agree with what he was saying. I think it was kind of contrived because they were trying to push his character motivation into that direction. But it seemed like, because Tuvok was saying like, oh, if you give him a shield, then the aliens will just keep bothering, or if they move somewhere else, then someone else will keep bothering, which for me, I think moving somewhere else would have been a much better solution than having a shield that they could just sit there and poke at forever and isolate themselves from the rest of the galaxy.
I know, but
idea to me.
Yeah, but then again, like the Talaxians were very pacifistic to the point of like rolling over and taking it like in every situation, and it was kind of that they had moved around a lot and like kept getting kicked out, out,
that's
of wherever they were.
The episode was, that's what the episode was getting at, and that's what Tuvok was getting at. But I was saying in my review that I didn't buy that was the situation, because it's been established in Star Trek before, especially how vast the Delta Quadrant is, that there are often planets that are so isolated that people can be there and be left alone. And I don't buy that there's not one, that they'd have to go to some asteroid.
I know logistically, but the writing made me buy it anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean, there is a lot of cases in Voyager in particular where you kind of just have to go with the writers.
Yeah, Star Trek in general, you have to kind of just go like, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I do agree about the Tuvok and Neelix stuff. I did like it, but what I was kind of less. I don't know, I just had a lot of logistical issues with this episode. Not just that, but a lot. Like in my review, I just harped on how this doesn't actually make sense. but I mean, his relationship with the other Talaxians, like I kind of liked, and I kind of worked, it kind of didn't. So I'm kind of lukewarm on that. But actually, I think I would have. What I didn't like is I would have preferred if he actually stayed on Voyager and went back to the Alpha Quadrant. I think it was kind of a cop out to be like, oh, let's just say, hey, here's some Talaxians all of a sudden, because it's like kind of what we were saying before, that Neelix had lost his family. His new family was Tuvok, was Chakotay, was Janeway, was Seven of Nine, and so to me, it made more sense for him to stick with his new family going forward, rather than let's just pop up some love interest for him to fall in love with who happens to be the same species. It felt a bit of a cop out to me. That's just my opinion.
But then old Doomsday said he got a better ending than everyone else. So
yes, touche.
I don't know, for that reason, I guess in retrospect, like because I really didn't think much, and I'm a Voyager like you do, but I don't think it's a very good either. In retrospect, I guess, looking at the ending, Voyager versus the ending Neelix got in Homestead, it looks a little nicer, like Homestead looks like a better episode and a better ending for character in comparison.
Well, yeah, my feelings on that. Any episode's a better episode.
Yeah, I know.
Game.
I don't think the ending is great either. Totally, not going to get into it. There is a few things, episodes that I like that work for me, that make me not hate the whole thing completely. It really is a logistical mess end game. Like let's
not get into it, because I think it's more than just logistics. I think everything about it is a mess.
Yeah.
But But anyway, so I is there any like favorite or least favorite Neelix episodes or moments that I didn't mention that is some of your favorite or least favorites that I didn't talk about?
Probably not. I don't know. We kind of we covered a lot. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. So
I mean, what did you think about his introduction in the pilot with him saying, "Oh, Mr. Vulcan," and because I actually thought all that stuff worked, that it portrayed him as really alien and different, and the fact that he lied to the Voyager crew.
Yeah, but then it that those parts of him like kind of go away. You know,
yeah, that's true.
Voyager in general not being serialized. The image of Voyager not being serialized to a lot of things inconsistent that shouldn't have been, like where DS9 tried so hard for and like long continuity in between make it feel like a whole story. Voyager just wasn't interested in doing that, and they took a page out of not only it was worse in terms of like the continuity of when Tuvok struck. Oh yeah, because he kills them.
You're talking
in Meld.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when Tuvok kills Neelix. Yeah, I don't know. Like, was that did he actually do that on the holodeck, or was that in his head?
Yeah, he did.
He did it on the holodeck. Okay.
Yeah, Meld is not the best episode.
Yeah, I don't. Some people really like that episode. I never really got into it. Like, I don't hate it, but to me, it's just kind of bland.
Yeah. There are problems.
But I guess that scene's probably another actually bad Neelix example, even though it's that particular scene when he strangles Neelix as a hologram, he was still being like a total dick to Tuvok. I mean, like, come on, he like forcibly trying to get him to smile. And I guess that sort of portrays what that's like Tuvok's image of Neelix, of who he thinks Neelix is and how annoying he is.
Yeah, and in worst case scenario, because Tuvok wrote the program, how he made Neelix betray the Voyager crew pretty much immediately. Like Tuvok just did not think well of Neelix, and that was put, a lot writing.
Yeah, I actually really like that, and I think that's a much better example. Yeah, worst case scenario. I think that was a great example of how, especially when they first met, how low Tuvok's opinion was of Neelix. And Neelix pointing out, and I actually side with Neelix. I agree with Neelix that he wouldn't have betrayed the Voyager crew so quickly.
No, Neelix would not have done that. But yeah, Tuvok thought that he would totally do it. All right, so is that all?
Yeah, I think we can sort of wrap up this discussion here. I think it was a pretty good discussion. Got into the crux of Voyager and Neelix. Colonel Doomsday in the chat was saying Zephyr Cochrane Day. Yeah, that's that was an annoying part.
But it makes sense that. Actually, no, it was First Contact Day.
Yeah, First Contact Day. Yeah, that's right.
It makes sense that is a real Star Trek holiday, because things, in our world are holidays like that.
Yeah.
Columbus Day is still a holiday for some reason that federal employees get off for some reason on Columbus Day. But But yeah, like it totally makes sense that First Contact Day would be a thing, or in Star Trek, excuse me.
Yeah, I do think in universe you could say, yeah, it definitely makes sense. But out of universe, it just seemed like a shameless plug for the film First Contact.
Yeah.
But yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's just go ahead and wrap up this discussion here. It was really great. Having another one of these live streams with you and actually getting into such a random topic. I love that it was just like it was something at random. Hey, let's just talk about Neelix. If you have any other random stuff in the future you want to talk about, yeah, just drop it by. This is a great discussion. So anyway, yeah, any sort of last words, any parting words?
Neelix or Voyager?
Yep. Anything.
Okay. It is a flawed show, but I love it anyway. I love it, and yeah, I do. I love Voyager. It has problems, but I still love it.
Yeah, and I absolutely 100% agree with you. It is a flawed show, and it's a lot of wasted potential too. I think, mostly you were kind of touched on this earlier, but I think it was mostly studio interference, like because there were smart writers like Michael Piller, who I idolize, who actually got kicked off the show because they wouldn't go in a serialized direction like he wanted to. So there was a lot of studio interference pushing this show down that hurt it. So it could have been much better than it was because there was a lot of great potential, but I still love it. I still think it's a great show.
Yeah.
Despite what some commenters, you'd be surprised how many commenters try to tell me I hate Voyager, saying I'm not worth listening to because I hate Voyager so much. But I don't actually hate Voyager. I'm just not blind to its flaws. I actually love Voyager. But anyway, yes. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Neelix, and we will thank you guys for the chat. Colonel Doomsday sticking through the whole thing, and anyone watching this in archives, thank you so much, and we'll see you all later.
Okay, get you are. Bye-bye.